With the struggles of AJ Smith-Shawver, Bryce Elder, and to some degree, Ronaldo Lopez in spring training, some fans are already asking, did the Braves make a mistake in letting Michael Soroka go? I'll answer that question and many, many more on today's Mailbag episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at shortstopball. Also, make sure you check out some of my written work over at bravestoday.com. Make sure you follow the podcast on social media at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback that you have for the podcast. If you're new and watching on YouTube, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're approaching, I believe, 9,600 subscribers now, trying to get to 10K by opening day. You can help me do that by either hitting that subscribe button or hitting the thumbs up button if you're already subscribed here. And if you are, thank you so much for your support of a Locked On Braves. Thanks to all my audio listeners as well, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much for being a supporter here at Locked On Braves. Shout out to some of those already with me in here live. We got Matthew Carter, Nick Harvey, Chris Hester, One Iron Lung, Golden Child, Rams a Ram in here from New York City, Mauricio Argenis, Jeffrey Humphreys, Leland Miguel, Cody Cooper, Nicholas C., Matthew with me here on a Friday night. I see Doug Kuhnson here as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Do a lot of these live during the offseason. With the offseason, it's coming to a close, but we will still have the mailbag going throughout the regular season, so don't worry about that. And that's what we'll be doing today. I'm going to be answering a wide variety of questions as we typically do on the mailbag. So looking forward to jumping into those, and let's get right into them. First one from JDK says, what is your take? Was letting Soroka go a mistake? Yes, it's only spring training, but he's looked super sharp with his modest price tag. Could have sent Bryce to AAA and kept Ronaldo in the pen. So I've seen some people kind of asking this. Obviously, what Soroka's done in spring training has a lot of Braves fans maybe feeling a little upset about letting him go. In 3 spring training starts, he has a 2.00 ERA, 9 innings, 12 strikeouts, a 1.11 whip. First and obvious thing to say is it's spring training, and we should take all spring training stats and numbers with a huge grain of salt. Here's my answer to this, though. Yes, I think the Braves should have done it. Even now, with what we've seen from Bryce Elder hasn't been great. AJ Smith-Shawver, while he's certainly had some moments and I think shown signs of improvement, at least in his pitch repertoire, Ronaldo Lopez has looked just kind of okay to me. Certainly a good fifth starter. But they had to let Soroka go for really both sides involved. That move wasn't just for the Braves. I think it was for Soroka because he needed an opportunity to get innings, and he's going to be able to get that with the Chicago White Sox. It was the best thing for Michael Soroka's career to be traded away, to get a fresh start. As much as I wanted him to succeed with the Braves, it was the best thing for him to be able to go somewhere, get a fresh start in a place where there's not a lot of pressure to win now, so you can roll him out there every 5th day, let him work through some things, and hopefully he gets it back together. And if he does, hopefully the Braves trade for him, because I'd love to have him back here and him be a big part of this rotation again. I wouldn't buy in to what Soroka's doing in spring training the same way I wouldn't necessarily buy into what Bryce Elder's doing this spring training. But letting Michael Soroka go, they had to create roster space, to give him an opportunity. I think it created some payroll space as well, with the Braves wanting to go out and make some moves. And I think and the other thing is that he also was out of options. And I think that's a big part of it as well. The Braves, if he wasn't going to be in the rotation and there was no guarantee of that, they would have to DFA him and could possibly lose him through waivers anyway. So I think it was the right decision. Obviously, hindsight right now, the way that Soroka's looked and the way that Bryce Elder and others have looked, you would love to have that option. But I think at the time when the Braves had to make that decision, it was the right decision for both sides, really, both the Braves and Michael Soroka. But wish him all the best. Certainly, Miguel says, like Soroka wins AL Cy Young. I don't know about all of that, but I certainly wish him the best and hope that he's able to recover and get things back together and back on track. As Doug Kuntz says, Soroka only benefits from a fresh start. Wish him the best. Would have loved to have seen it happen and a Braves uni, but go get him. And I think that's the feeling from me, is it was the best move for both parties involved. As much as we all wanted to see Michael Soroka make the comeback here, and he did. He made the comeback here, and we got to witness that. I never loved what the Braves did to him last year and yo-yoing him back and forth. They brought him up too early because there were so many injuries. I think perfect scenario, you continue to let him throw at AAA, call him up maybe mid-season, maybe the second half of the season, and give him a run like they gave Yanni Chirinos. Give him 5 starts in a row and see what he can do. Braves just couldn't afford that because of the position that they were in, trying to win the division. The rotation was all banged up. And so I think, unfortunately, that was somewhat of a detriment to Soroka and his buildup. But that's neither here nor there at this point. Soroka is gone. Wish him all the best. Braves still have some quality options that they in-house now, despite what you've seen in spring training. Michael Vandenberg says, I know we're always talking about future at shortstop. I do think Arcia's contract makes it easy for the Braves if they feel Nacho or someone else is ready as early as next season to move off him or keep him as a utility. Do you agree? I do agree to the fact that Arcia's contract is so team-friendly that, look, you don't sign that contract unless you view him as a utility player. I think if Arcia had the season that he had last year, even with the second half, and he goes into the offseason as a free agent shortstop, he's getting more than $2 million a year. That contract speaks to somebody who is a bench utility player, and I believe that's what the Braves signed him as. So, yes, you're right. That contract, it does afford the Braves the opportunity to say, if they're ready to move on from him at that position, you can move him to the bench role where most likely they thought he was going to be anyway. So, yes, I do agree with that. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think Arcia has a pretty long leash on the shortstop job at the moment, but I do agree with the fact that that contract allows them to move off of him pretty quickly if there is a better option, if Nacho proves that he's ready for next year, and I don't think that's going to be the case, or if they just decide that they're ready to move on from Arcia, not a big deal. You can move him to the bench where he's still just making $2 million and would be one of the better bench players in baseball. E. Goldie says, what is one hot take you are prepared to make for this Braves team or a Braves player this season? And what is one hot take you have for any other team in baseball? All right, so these are some hot takes, and I'll do more previews and predictions the week leading up to opening day, but I'll go ahead and give you 2 pretty spicy ones right here. My one hot take for a Braves player team, Hurston Waldrop will make 15 starts at the big league level this year, and I'm going to say he wins 8 of those. So that's my one hot take, is that Hurston Waldrop, I think he gets called up by May. I think he makes 15 starts for this Braves team this year, and I think he wins 8 games. As far as Major League Baseball around the league, one hot take that I have on the backs of their pitching, I'm going to say the Tigers will make the postseason. I don't know that they're going to win that division, and they don't win that division, they're obviously going to have to win a lot of games to compete with some good teams in the West and the East. So it's most likely going to have to be the division. But watch out for those Tigers. I don't know if there's enough quite there on offense, but that pitching, they got some things going on over there with their pitching staff, and I think they're going to be sneaky good and be able to compete in that AL Central. Question from Caden Hurd says, with the new additions, who are the 3 players you expect to not only perform, but could dominate in November? So I'm assuming you're asking me just of the new additions, which 3 do I expect to perform and dominate in November? Chris Sale is the obvious one. Aaron Bummer, I think, is a sneaky one who could, with his big velocity and his stuff and hard to hit and that arm angle, I think he could be dominating in the postseason. And then I'm going to say Adam Duvall. And look, I'm not the biggest Adam Duvall supporter, but he's had some clutch moments in the postseason for sure with the Braves. So I think I'll put him in there as well. Sell, Bummer, and Duvall. Caden Hurd also asked, with the addition of Adam Duvall and him and Kelenic platooning, does this open the door to Kelenic losing confidence and suffering production-wise? I think there's a possibility. Look, he's human, just like all of us. And anytime he's not getting replaced, but it's a reduction in his playing time. And I think it's a reflection of his performance. I think that's got to hurt your confidence a little bit. But Justin Toscana of the AJC just posted an article, and I believe these questions were asked post Adam Duvall's signing. And he said he came over to Atlanta lacking confidence, and he feels like the Braves have helped him regain that. So, again, I don't know exactly the timing of that interview, but it sounds like Kelenic was already struggling a bit with confidence with everything happening in Seattle, and coming over here, he feels like he has regained that, been given a fresh start. We got more questions coming on Jarred Kelenic in this podcast and several other questions to get to as well. I'll answer those here and next. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info, claim as a Q1 2024 validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, members SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. Say goodbye to those busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tournament. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a one seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Of course, I'm talking about FanDuel. Check us out over there at FanDuel.com/lockedon to help support the show, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. My Auburn Tigers looked great in the first game of the SEC tournament. We'll see if they can carry that in. Last I looked, they were plus 2,000 to win the championship on FanDuel. So you can go over there and look at the odds for who's going to cut down the nets. On the baseball side of things, they have team-specific specials, which I think are really cool and interesting to look at, like will Spencer Strider record 250-plus regular season strikeouts and Ronald Acuña Jr. reach 50-plus stolen bases. So you can see all those lines over at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Also visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Play safe for tools and resources to help you stay in control of the way you play. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. As you know, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, Locked On Sports Today. Baseball fans, mark your calendars for March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern for the best MLB season preview coming exclusively to Locked On Sports Today. On March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern, be the first to get local insight from the MLB local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find it on March 20th at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, coming up next week on Monday, I'm going to give you 5 prospects that are ready to break out in 2024. And then the rest of the week, we'll continue to preview the upcoming season. Might have a very special and interesting guest for you as well next week, so be on the lookout for that. All right, let's jump back into the questions. Leland Hurt says, what's up with our lack of offensive power this spring? Few home runs, few runs scored. Obvious answer, again, is it spring? I wouldn't put too much stock into it. Maybe another example that this lineup needs that rhythm. They need those everyday at-bats and playing every other day. Probably not as conducive to them and players who are used to playing every single day. You even saw it, another article from Justin Toscana, or post rather, that he tweeted out, said that, with the 2-day road trip in spring training, the regulars in the lineup wanted to go because they didn't want to go more than 2 days without getting in the lineup. That just speaks to the fact that this team likes to play every day and they need that repetition. And offense, honestly, for the Braves can be kind of slow to start. I feel like the last couple of seasons, especially, I've noticed that this offense is a little slow to begin. Probably some of that to do with the cold air, but I wouldn't worry too much about it in spring training. Leland also says, I'm concerned about AJ Smith-Shawver. He currently has an ERA over 10. Rough outing today on Friday. Is he trying too hard to be good rather than just pitch? Your thoughts, please. He's very clearly working on things in spring training. We talked a lot about that changeup, which looks really, really good. And he's throwing more and more now. He threw it just as much as he threw that slider on Friday. So he is working on things. He's still struggling with the long ball, even in spring training. And that's what plagued him at the big league level. That's certainly something he has to work on. And a lot of that just comes from a lack of command on his pitches. And that still is the big hurdle for him, is just finding that command with his pitches. But I'm not concerned overall. In fact, if anything, I'm higher on AJ Smith-Shawver based on what I've seen in spring training, because that changeup has been so good for him. If he can just get down the command consistently on that fastball and slider, carry that velocity deep into starts, I think AJ Smith-Shawver has a chance to have a big year as well. Joshua C. Williams, huge fan of the show, everyday listener. You have been, at least to me, surprisingly supportive of Kelenic. He's now 3 for 37, all singles. Where are you seeing cause for optimism? Might some AAA time do him good? I don't know that I have been optimistic necessarily on Kelenic. It's just I'm willing to give the guy a little bit more than 30 plus, almost 40 now, spring training at bats before I truly judge him and his tenure here in Atlanta. It feels like a lot of people are ready to write him off or even send him down. And maybe that is needed. And maybe, the Braves do need to send him down and let him continue to work on things at AAA if they think the mechanics are that bad, or that he just still has things to work on. I did write an article over on bravestoday.com talking about, just a swing change that I think he could make that could really help him take off. I think there's a question about this later as well, so I may get to it more there. But essentially, he's making contact in spring training, which is great. It's just the quality of contact. And he's even hitting the ball pretty hard in spring training. It's just the quality of contact. He's got to find a way to lift the ball more. And if he does that, then I think we're going to see him take off. Right now, it's just too many hard hit ground balls to the first baseman, to the second baseman. But he's making contact. He's making adjustments. I think he'll get there. So I am optimistic, I guess you could say, that I think the Braves made too many moves to get him to not have a real game plan in mind that they think will work to get him going. It may take some time, maybe longer than we hoped, but I believe in the Braves coaching staff and the front office that they saw something in him that they can change and fix to turn him into the hitter that many people thought he could be. Joshua Williams also says, Forrest Wall is batting .375, 3 homers and 24 at-bats with a 1,200 OPS. He's also, to my eye, played great defense. He hit well and limited at-bats last regular season. What in the world does the former first-round pick have to do to earn some starts? What am I not seeing? I mean, I get it. You're not starting him over Acuña. You're not starting him over Michael Harris. Like I just said, they put a lot of stock into getting Jarred Kelenic, and now they've even gone out and gotten Adam Duvall. Unfortunately for him, it's going to take an injury, and we certainly don't want that, or, just Kelenic and Duvall falling flat on their faces. He needs an opportunity. I mean, I don't disagree with you there. I think what he did, really going back to spring training last year, he had a really good spring training last year, carried that into the regular season. Now he's having another really good spring training. He just needs an opportunity, but you're just not going to get it on this Braves team right now. Unfortunately for him, it's going to take an injury or two or an elongated slump from the left fielder, whoever's out there, for him to get that chance. J-Cho says, considering it looks like there will be no impact starter available at the deadline, and even the Braves can't outbid the other teams that will be looking, how much are they risking on the season by not signing Montgomery, Clevenger, and/or Lorenzen? They're not risking as much as other teams by not signing them. I can tell you that. I mean, the Braves roster, if healthy, is the best in baseball. I mean, maybe that's a little biased of me to say, but I think it's still the best roster in all of baseball. Now, health obviously is, it's big for every team. We're seeing it right now. Look at the Yankees are dealing with Garrett Cole, and now they're probably going to have to pivot and maybe go get a Snell or a Montgomery. And that's always an issue. But you're talking about right now a rotation of Strider, Fried, Sale, and Morton. And maybe Sale and Morton or they are on the back end of their careers. I mean, just about every team in baseball outside of maybe the Dodgers and Phillies are going to take that rotation. So yeah, they could go out and pay big money for a Snell and Montgomery. It would just be adding on top. It's not a necessity like it is for a lot of other teams out there. I know Jay later, he asked about Mike Clevinger. Says Clevinger actually has nasty stuff. Strider does own his jersey and was a Cleveland fan. I know it's not Montgomery, but for the talent that's possibly there, if Clevinger was available for $6 or $7 million, would you take him over Elder? I would. I mean, I think Clevinger has more ability than Elder. I think he's probably a back of the rotation starter, but I think he has still some mid-rotation upside in him. I think $6 or $7 million would be a great price for him. I don't think the Braves are going to pay it. That's going to take them into that next tax threshold, which I don't know if they're going to be willing to do or not. But look, if you would have told me all along the Braves could go out and get Mike Clevinger for 1 year, $6 to $7 million, I would have said that's a smart move all day long, and it gives the Braves some more quality depth as well. Nancy says, delighted Adam is back, but worry about how this affects Jarred, as his past showed he has attitude issues. He hasn't even been in lineup when home, and I was wondering if they are protecting him from the home crowd reaction to a slow start. What are your thoughts? If you're booing guys in spring training who are having a rough spring training that just came over, that's tough. I would hope that wouldn't happen. I full-heartedly believe that's not the case, and why he hasn't played at home much, if at all. I haven't honestly looked to see if he's played any at home, so I'm taking Nancy at her word here. That's a tough look if you're a Braves fan booing somebody in spring training. Just please don't do that. But you pay for the tickets, you do what you want. But I think this could help Jarred. It takes even more pressure off of him. It allows a handicap for him as he tries to work his way in. But I would hope it doesn't have any sort of effect on his attitude or his mentality or anything like that. But he has had some instances in the past where he has made some bad decisions. But again, he said when he came over, talked about how he feels like he's over that. I hope that's the case. Everything he's saying is right. And now he's just got to go out and prove it. Maybe this does push him. Hopefully it does push him to improve and to take hold of that role. All right, we got a lot of other questions to get to, and my throat is starting to get a little raspy, so we're going to take another quick break. I got more questions to answer, then we'll get into our opening day countdown as we are just getting close. 13 days away, Ronald Acuña Jr. days away from opening day. We'll discuss all of that here next. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experience at home with smart TVs and the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, March Madness coming up, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. I got one myself, and I am ready to go for this baseball season. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes all of us at Locked On as well. You want to find an easier way to find my podcast? You can do so with the free Fire TV's channels app. They let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the wild world of sports, from March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more, not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. If you want to take a break from the sports action, check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me, they're absolutely great. To learn more, visit Amazon Fire or Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. I want to remind you again that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now available on the free Fire TV channels app with Amazon Fire TV. All right, I got a couple more questions I need to run through real quickly. This one from Blake Newsom. He says, for only $1 million more, would you have preferred Michael Taylor over Adam Duvall? Take Braves tenure bias out of it. He slashed much better against lefties, talking about Michael Taylor the last 2 years, and still plays Gold Glove defense. I love Adam, but I feel he's been there, done that thing. I probably would have preferred just straight up Michael Taylor over Adam Duvall. I think he gives you more protection in center field. But I feel like if something happens to Michael Harris, that's probably going to be the opportunity for Forrest Wall. I don't know if Forrest Wall is better than Michael Taylor. And obviously, you're getting a right-handed platoon bat. You're not going to face too many lefties. So I don't know. I liked Michael Taylor just because I think it gives you better insurance in center field. Duvall can obviously handle it, but Michael Taylor is obviously better suited for it. So I probably would have preferred Michael Taylor. I think it's interesting that he signs just a day after Duvall does. I wonder if that means that the Braves were in on him and it just ultimately didn't work out. So they pivoted to Duvall. Either way, I don't mind the Duvall signing. I don't think it's a big deal one way or the other, but I did like Taylor better just going back to the beginning of the offseason just because of the insurance that he gives you in center field. If something does happen to Harris, you can plug in a Gold Glove caliber type of defender in center field. Chuck McMillan says, I understand Duvall is a platoon partner for Kelenic, but is the real purpose to push and mentor Kelenic or be insurance in case of an Acuña injury? Either way, I love it. We have 4 outfielders that can play any outfield spot. So I don't think it's let me pick the right word here. I don't think it is meant to be directly for either of those two things. I don't think they signed Duvall to push Jarred Kelenic. If that happens, then great. I don't think they signed Duvall for injury insurance for Acuña, but he does give you injury insurance for not just Acuña, but what we also just talked about, Michael Harris, because he can play all 3 outfield spots. I think they went and got Adam Duvall to be a solid right-handed bat off the bench who can also platoon with Kelenic. And I think those are the main reasons. That's probably the word I was trying to think of. The main reasons for signing Adam Duvall to be a platoon partner and to give you more solid depth off the bench and a right-handed bat. I believe that is the biggest reasoning for getting Adam Duvall. Dustin Mount, Seitzer apparently got Kelenic to move his hands down like Ronald and Harris. Do you think once he gets used to the adjustments, we will see him take off hitting? Or do you think messing with his stance so quick might have been a mistake? I mean, when else are you going to do it? Obviously, as I've talked about several times, I think the Braves made the trade for him because they saw something that they could fix to get him going, whether that is adjusting his hands down a little bit, whatever it may be. When else are you going to do it if not spring training? So it's going to take time, which is why maybe I'm willing to give him a little bit more of a leash than others, and why I was so surprised to see them just kind of pull the plug on him being an everyday outfielder so quickly, even though I do like the Adam Duvall move. I don't want anybody to think differently. But yes, it's going to take time, and certainly you knew that when he got here, they were going to make some adjustments, and it was going to take time for him to make those adjustments and feel comfortable with them. And I do believe once he gets going, I think he could take off. Like I said, he's making contact. He's making hard contact. It's just he's hitting weak ground balls to the right side. He needs to find a way to get some lift on those baseballs. All right, I think that's all the questions. I apologize if I missed yours. Please let me know in the comment section below, and I'll get to them there. But let's move to some of the news of the day. AJ Smith-Shawver gave up 5 earned on 8 hits. No walks, though, if you want to look on the positive side there. 3 strikeouts over 3 innings on Friday. Gave up another home run. If you're looking again at the positive side, Velo was up 3 whiffs on 9 swings against that changeup, which continues to be a pretty good pitch for him, but certainly not the outing that he was hoping for. The spring breakout game is on Saturday, and you can watch it via the Braves Today. There's a link there on bravestoday.com. You can go check out to watch that. Should be a lot of fun. News from around the league. We talked about Michael Taylor signing for $4 million with the Pirates. J.D. Davis signed a deal with the A's. Jordan Luplow signs with the Phillies, which is a little funny. Hopefully that doesn't come back to bite the Braves. I doubt that it will, but we'll see how that plays out. And the Cardinals extended manager Oil Marmol for 2 years, despite coming off one of the worst seasons in my lifetime for the St. Louis Cardinals, their worst season in franchise since 1995. So, but he gets a 2-year extension anyway. Countdown to opening day. I said we are Ronald Acuña Jr. days away from opening day, just 13 days. He has obviously worn that number since 2018. Could it possibly be a retired number? If you watch Behind the Braves on Wednesday, he said he wants to play for 14 more years. Hopefully he does that in a Braves uniform. Adonis Garcia, Nate McLeod, Billy Wagner, Ozzie Guillen, Blue Moon Odom wore it in 1975. So we will wrap there. I apologize not getting to the comments for those here live, but I see Trip Wuro Sinapai, Argenis Matthew, Disney in here with me. Thank you so much for joining us. But that will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves, and we'll talk to you again next week.